here's the cosine law. I'm going to fast forward. I'm going to skip the reading part here. I'm just going to go dive right in. With the cosine law, there's only two cases you can use the cosine law for. It's very obvious. And here they are. Okay. So the first one, I'll give you a diagram. Make it off-centered, okay? Make it off-centered. And check marks just means those are the sides we know. So if you have two sides known to you, okay, so make check marks there. And you have the angle between them. If the angle between those two sides is known to you, you know it's cosine law. We call that side angle side. Side angle side. Okay, SAS. It has to be in between them. That's the key. And the other case, just going to highlight that. You have two side lengths and the angle in between them. Okay. And the other case, any angle, if you know the lengths of the three sides of the triangle. So if you have a triangle like this is the most obvious one of all. You can only use cosine law for that when you know all three sides. This is called a side-side-side triangle. You will see this in textbooks if you ever research this yourselves. So the lengths of all three sides, right? If you have that, then you know it's cosine law. I will say this, note, in both cases, there are no pairs. See, so I told you if there is a pair, you must use sine law. So it just reaffirms that. Okay, that like if you look at the three sides known, you don't even have an angle. You don't have a pair. And this case here, the angle is in between the two sides, so you don't have the side across from it. So it's very important that you know that. And here are the formulas. They are on your formula sheet, but I like to have them handwritten and with using a different color for that one side you're interested in. So if you can, we'll start with the SAS case first. So if it's SAS, okay, there are three versions of this formula. Okay, they're all the same, but it's specific to the side you're trying to find. If you're trying to find side A, you have to start with A squared. And I'm switching back to pencil. A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C. So it starts like Pythagorean Theorem, but then it switches, right? It goes minus, the dots mean multiplication in math, okay? So 2 times B times C times cosine, and here I switch color again. Cosine of angle A. And notice that lowercase is side length and capital is angle, right? So if you want to find side A, you better know angle A, which is across from it. Second variation of this. If you're trying to solve for side B, you start with B squared and the other two sides, okay? The other two sides that remain are A squared, A and C, right? Then you're going to go minus 2 times A times C times cosine, and here I switch color again, cosine of angle B. And the last variation, let me zoom into them a little bit because I'm going to stick to, there you go. The last variation is c squared. Which two sides are going to be on the other side? A and B, right? Let's see. This a squared b squared minus 2 times a times b times cosine of c. Please do not use sine. Some students, they somehow mix them up and they all of a sudden they make a sine appear here. Maybe I want you to see the pattern too. Watch this. If b squared and c squared show up here, these two sides show up there as well, bc. A squared, c squared, ac, right? A squared, b squared, ab. Okay, so right now they may look a little scary, these formulas. They won't be in a bit, okay? I'll show you how to work them. So cut this off right here, because on the other side, I'm going to do the second version of this, which is the side, side, side scenario. Okay, so this is how this one goes. You need, if you're trying to find an angle, you need to start with cosine of that angle, using a different color again. That is equal to b squared plus c squared. Watch this. I'm going to go minus a squared. See, there's a minus there. It's very important that you get that right. All of that is over 2 times b times c. Second variation of that formula, notice that a, b, c are used here, but it could be x, y, z, d, e, f. It could be whatever. Just watch the pattern. Cosine of b, if you wanted to find that angle, you better make sure, watch what I'm going to do now. If you look carefully, if you want to find this angle, you better make sure that the side length across from it shows up at the end here, subtracting. And then I fill in with the rest. What are the other two sides? Well, there's a squared, right? Side A and side B. So I just fill those in, making sure I always square them. And the denominator is 2 times A. Oh, wait, sorry. I made a mistake, right? Can you look up so you catch it? You cannot have two of the same. What would this have to be? C. Okay, good, good. I hope I didn't throw you off too much there. So AC, so that means that at the bottom you will have 2 times A times C. Good thing you caught that, right? Good thing. And then last variation, I'm a little bit scared to use ABC because then students think all the sides always have to, like there is no angle C here, right? Just look at the pattern. Because I'm trying to find angle C, I'm going to go ahead, I actually teach it this way. I say take that side length and put it at the end at the top there. And then fill in with the rest. C is already taken, so this would have to be a squared plus b squared. And in the denominator, 2 times a times b. They look scary, but they're not. I will show you how to do that. See? I will put a note here. I will say this. If given a choice, solve for largest angle first. And where's the largest angle going to be located? Across from the longest side. Because remember, you know all three sides, right? So just find the longest side and find the one across from that longest side. Okay, we'll do one before we go. And remember, it's all on the video, so if for some reason you didn't catch all of this, I would strongly recommend you have this on your study sheet. Even though it is on the formula sheet, it doesn't have the different colors. You might not need all the variations, but definitely one, right? This and that. If you ever get a triangle that has all angles known but no side lengths, you cannot solve that. It's impossible to solve. That's the only triangle we cannot solve for, is all angles given, no side lengths. You need at least one side length to get you started. 3 side lengths is okay, but 3 angles is not okay. All right, so let's go to the back side and do at least one question, at least, before we go today, so that cosine law is already like started in your brain, okay? Go to 276, please, that question right there. So let's assume you're like sine law, cosine law. Which one is this? Obviously, it's cosine law. I'm giving it away already, right? But you look at this, you're like, I know that side, I know this side, and I know the angle in between. What kind of triangle is this? SAS, right? So you must use cosine law. Only 2 that work with cosine law. This is one of them. It's definitely not side, 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 so that's not it, but it's side, angle, side. So it says calculate the length of side A, right? So let's write out the formula first and foremost. If that's the side you're trying to find, I put that first. A squared, it could have been x, right? It could have been x. In this case, it's A. We know that I have to take the other 2 sides, square them. Then I'm going to go minus, there's always the 2, right? Minus 2 times B times C. All of that multiplied by cosine of angle, the one that's across from this side, which is angle A. Okay. So we determined it SAS. You go to your study sheet. This is what the formula looks like. This is the side I'm trying to find. And so watch this. You go A squared is equal to B squared is 7.9. You square that. C is 5.2. You need to square it. Squaring is not timesing it by 2, by the way. You multiply it by itself. Okay. Minus 2 times B times C, and I'm doing everything in brackets because now I'm substituting, times cosine of 43 degrees. So you don't have to write this out for me on a test or quiz. You don't have to write the formula out. You just do this part. You plug in everything. And I'm going to do this in steps. A squared, you leave a squared like that. If you have a button, if you have a x2 button, I don't know if you have one, x2 is squaring. If you don't have an x2 button, you might have a hat button like this. So you could go 7.9 hat to the power of 2, that squares it. Okay, so we'll go 62.41. 5.2 squared is 2704 minus. This is where your calculator comes in. Please follow with this one. I want to see if you can do this. So you go 2 times 7.9 times 5.2 times cosine of 43. You go times, times, times. If you have one of those calculators that immediately gives you cosine of 43, you need to go backwards. You need to go 43 cosine times 5.2 times 7.9 times 2. Okay, you need to go backwards. So watch what I'm getting. I'm getting 60. I'm going to use all decimals. 0.88202013. You ready for this step here? Watch. A is magically going to have that 2 disappear. What do you need to do to the other side? You remember Pythagorean Theorem, right? Square root. So we're going to type this in before we go today. Minus 60.08802013. That's 29. I'm leaving that in my calculator. 361, and it just keeps going. And then I'm going to square root that. So I press the square root button, hit equals, and it's 5.4 what? 2, right? Because that 8 is going to bump that into a 2, and we are in centimeters. You just solve for that missing side. More of this tomorrow. No AC tomorrow. We're going to dive right into this and get you ready for cosine.